Hello, I am Stacy Couch of Wild Gratitude. You can find me on my website at wildgratitude.com. This video is a continuation in the series that I have produced about soul retrieval. I'm going to talk specifically today about soul parts and what they are. I touched on this really briefly in a previous video about the causes of soul loss, but I feel like the topic is undefined enough that it warrants its own video. When we talk about soul parts, I think the word parts gives us the impression that this is actually a finite thing in the cosmos somewhere that we can grasp hold of. The word part or parts makes it seem very concrete. But then you add the word soul, which is so not concrete, so vague, so up to interpretation, that putting those two together actually creates quite a bit of a paradox. But I want to backtrack even more and talk first about soul and the definition of soul. So if you'll excuse me, I'm going to grab my notes here really quick. And because I wanted to read to you some ideas of soul, some of which come from other authors or spiritual teachers, and some of which are a compilation of different ideas of different teachers. And I'm just going to read through these for you. So if you're sitting or standing or whatever, I invite you to take a moment as you're listening to this or watching this to close your eyes and really fall into these words and these concepts and ideas when you're thinking about your soul and the idea of soul. So you may even want to close your eyes. You may want to take a good deep breath and listen. The soul is the fingerprint of God that takes form. This is from Ian Van Sant. The fingerprint of God that takes form. The soul existed before you were here and will go on after you. It's the part of us that never dies. It's our immortal self. The soul is who we are at the core, the truth of us. The soul carries our lessons, our karma. It carries the next layers of who we are meant to be. It carries codes and possibilities. The soul is the consciousness that you are beyond form. From Michael Singer, he says, the soul is the indwelling consciousness that watches the mind, the heart, and body come and go. The soul is the changeless part of us. It is infinite. It is everywhere. The soul is the part of us that is one with God. It is our divine nature. And from author Jean Houston, the soul is the lure of our becoming. That one's especially beautiful, the lure of our becoming. So, with that said, is he coming back into the room and into the space and is watching me on this video here? Yeah, think about where that took you, where those ideas take you, out, expansive, beyond, infinite. It takes you to a place of timelessness and of boundarylessness. That is soul. I encourage you too to sit with those ideas I gave you and see which one of those fits for you. Maybe all of them do, maybe just a few. And there may be some concepts of your own that you would like to add to your idea of soul. This is a conversation you'll never come to the final answer of, but it's a conversation with yourself, with God, with your journal, worth having. So, there we have the paradox. This timeless, infinite, boundless thing, essence, our soul. And then we have a soul part, this finite piece that we often try to put and often are able to put in to time and space. This soul part is here now with me, or the soul part is there, back stuck in the past still. Quite a paradox. And that is the nature of spiritual seeking. And I think that we forget that sometimes when we are on the path of learning and gathering knowledge and wisdom. We think that we are about to find the answer, or we are upon the answer. And what we have to remember is that actually at the end of the path is always paradox, because we are in a polarized reality. This reality that we live in is black and white, up and down, left and right, right and wrong. That is just how this reality is set, so that there are boundaries, so that we do have some sort of construct to participate in this experience. But when we go out of this world, when we travel into other worlds or into communion with spirit guides or spirit, there we find union, ultimate union, non-polarized reality, where there is no such thing as right or wrong. It just is. And therein we have that paradox. And so here with the word soul, the words soul part put together, we have another paradox. We have the infinite and we have the finite. Part implies that there is a boundaried piece of something that we can pick up or measure. And we're just going to have to be okay with that, because that's simply how it is. And it can be kind of tricky when we're trying to wrap our mind around this all. And sometimes the best and easiest way for us to be able to wrap our mind around it is to go towards the idea of part. So what is this soul part, this finite, defined thing that has been lost to us, or is currently part of us, but is part of our soul? How do we define that? It is, and you've heard this in the other videos if you've watched, but it is a gifted part of who you are. It is a piece of your essence. It is a piece of that core of you, of your authentic being, and it is a piece that is able to express a certain gift or talent or skill out in the world. And that gift or talent or skill may not be tangible, something like making a piece of art. It may be something less tangible, like being able to touch someone really deeply with a spiritual truth. Yes. So in thinking in that way, when we're looking at this soul part and it being strong, empowered, not weak, not timid or shy. It didn't leave because it was scared. It left because it was too strong to stay in the situation that was there. It couldn't hold the power. The power of that soul part could not be held in the truth of the situation that occurred at the time that the soul part left. I'm getting somewhere. Just stay with me for a moment. So this soul part is actually, here's where I'm going, is actually a piece of our essence that is an expression of our essence. So this part is a finite expression, is a way of expressing who we are and moving who we are at the core into this polarized world, into this embodied, tangible, concrete world made up of molecules and quarks and cells. And this soul part is a way that we express the infinite of who we are. So it's almost like taking this infinite being that we are, this infinite amount of energy, this immortal piece of who we are, and running it through a lens. So the soul part could be a lens. We could see it as that when who we are at the core of our being runs through that lens, it is then refracted out into different colors and it's shown out in the world. So the back side of the lens is the soul. The lens is that soul part, the means by which we express who we are, and then the light that's reflected on the other side is the expression. That might be a very eloquent way to take a look at it. That's the best that I can come up with so far anyways. It's tricky, yeah. And when I'm doing the soul retrievals, we talk really literally about soul parts. I go on the soul retrieval, I go on the shamanic journey, I see a little girl at a certain age, dressed a certain way, carrying a blanket or a teddy bear, or a little girl carrying a knapsack like Huck Finn. And there's any variation of expressions. I might see a woman who is dancing and dressed in a beautiful flowing gown. I might meet a woman who lives in the center of Jupiter who puts on a beautiful, beautiful Japanese silk robe. These soul parts show up though as humans. When I do these soul parts, they show up in human form as a reflection of the person that I'm working on behalf of at a certain age. The age sometimes points to when the soul part left, and other times is just information, and it's up to the person I'm journeying on behalf to discriminate and determine what the age is, what the maturity of the soul part is about, if they are an adult, what that's about, if they are a baby, what that is about for them. It's personal for everyone. But yeah, it helps us make sense of our minds. And that's why I go with this imagery and mythology and story. We all know Joseph Campbell was a great, great lover of mythology. And he talked about how we're losing mythology in this world. And so being able to do these soul retrievals and come into the contact with these soul parts and be able to tell a story around them, a very personal story that someone has to work with, it's a very empowering thing and really helps our mind and emotions reconcile and come into peace with that. And then that peace, that acceptance, that trust, that love that comes in for us for this soul part, this being that we experience in the journey, this expression that we meet. Then when we come into acceptance for it, then we come into a place where we just move it into the world. We are able to take our inner light, shine it through that lens, and have that be a part of our expression again, with something that was once lost and now found. So hopefully that helps you. This is a little bit more of an esoteric conversation today than we've had in the past, but I really want you to get that I'm not speaking literally here about tangible things. We're speaking in layers, complex layers, and you can go all the way to the layer of soul and seeing the soul part as a lens. You can go to the layer of the paradox of the soul being infinite and the part being finite, the soul being timeless and the part being placed in time and space. Or you can go to the level of that our mind really enjoys with the mythology. And the mythology and myth is often a way that our soul speaks to our mind. And you can go to that level where you find the little soul part who is looking to come back and help at this time and bring her gifts into the world and have you embody and express them for her. All of those are valid. All of those are true. All of those are happening at the same time. But if we go into these levels and levels and layers of things, the conversation becomes so much more deep and so much more rich. So I really thank you for joining me in this little piece today. Please, if you like this video and you like the other videos you see on this channel, please give it a thumbs up. And also make comments in the field below. I really want to hear what you have to say. I really want to hear your questions. I'll either reply directly in the comments after yours, or you may see that I'll create a whole video on your question. So, because a lot of this information that I'm sharing with you comes from my own inquiry, my own exploration into the fields of shamanism and soul retrieval and mysticism, and trying to reconcile all of this together at once. And a lot of it comes from conversations with clients as well, but I'd love to have a real-time conversation with you and for you to share about that. So once again, my website is wildgratitude.com. You can find information there about the shamanic healing and soul retrieval sessions that I do. I also offer spiritual direction. So if you're having a tough time trying to reconcile ideas like this, how do I go from that knowing of my infinite being down to this being kind of tightly held in this body, in this form, in this life. And I feel so much bigger than this little place, and I don't know how to reconcile the two. Any sort of question like that, I'm glad to spend some time talking through with you and helping you discover your own inner wisdom so that you can move along the path and have more acceptance and inner peace and patience. So have a lovely day, and I look forward to checking in with you next time. Take care.